Welcome to Kaywon Action Star. Watch. A woman steps out of the bathroom after a shower. "Hi, Mrs. Danvers," she greets, only to be tackled by a man charging straight toward her. She scrambles to flee, frantically looking for assistance, but within moments, he overtakes her. He strikes her viciously, disregarding her pregnancy entirely. When her husband, Detective Mason, returns home, he discovers her sprawled across the floor, soaked in blood. The attacker looms above her, eyes burning with insolence. Fury boils inside Mason as he clutches his weapon, ready to fire. But at the final second, his partner Joel intervenes. "He's not worth it," Joel murmurs. Mason drops to his knees beside his wife's still body, his anguish reverberating through the space. This hatred didn't begin here, it all stemmed from a perilous operation. Detectives Mason and Joel had been tasked with capturing drug kingpin Victor Abbott and his brother Griffin. During the sting, Griffin acted first, taking them by surprise. Armed and vicious, he swiftly disabled Joel, forcing him to fall back. Joel narrowly evaded being found before Griffin closed in. "Don't make me come in there," Griffin warned, mistaking Joel for having bought a new outfit. But just before he struck, Mason stepped in. He shot Griffin in the arm, rendering him harmless. With Griffin restrained, Mason turned his sights to Victor, the true architect of it all. What ensued was a fierce shootout that only ended when both exhausted their rounds. With no ammunition remaining, they clashed in savage hand-to-hand combat. Victor fought with ferocity, managing to bring Mason down and prepare for a lethal blow. But before it could land, Joel and backup arrived just in time, apprehending both Victor and Griffin. During the arrest, Victor overheard Mason speaking to his wife, "Come home early, Aussie," and locked eyes with him. With a smirk, he uttered words that sent ice through Mason's veins, "We'll be meeting again soon." That night, Mason returned to his house, discussing the baby with his wife, Jocelyn. He comforted her, vowing to stay by her side and advising her to take things easy. But the next morning at headquarters, he received staggering news. Every witness tied to the Abbotts' arrest had mysteriously vanished. The charges were withdrawn. Both brothers walked out free that very afternoon. A deep unease gripped Mason. Something was amiss. Then the unthinkable happened. With no testimony or concrete evidence, law enforcement was forced to release Victor and Griffin. Mason called home, panic coating his voice. Victor's earlier words haunted him, but the nightmare came true. Instead of Jocelyn, Victor answered the phone. "Hey, sweetheart." He had broken into their residence, she was in his grasp. Without delay, Mason sprinted out, calling Joel for backup. But when he arrived, it was already over. Victor had murdered her. Mason stood frozen, glaring at Victor, his hands quivering with rage. He raised his firearm, finger tightening on the trigger, ready to end it all. But Joel stopped him, clinging to him desperately. Mason finally let go. The authorities apprehended Victor, but Mason's world had disintegrated. Jocelyn was gone, and so was the purpose that once guided him. Joel tried consoling him, suggesting he leave the city and start anew. But Mason refused. His resolve was set. One mission remained: vengeance. That night, alone in shadows, he prepared his arsenal. He was going after Griffin. Mason swiftly tracked down Griffin's hideout and notified Joel. "Whatever I need, right." But he didn't wait for assistance. He advanced alone, taking out Griffin's crew with deadly precision. Though injured and desperate, Griffin still had the audacity to mock Mason. "You're here because there's no one left waiting for you." His words meant nothing. Mason executed him. By the time Joel and the authorities arrived, Mason was already there. He didn't resist. He was detained for premeditated killing. But this wasn't accidental, it was calculated. He intended to be locked in Stonewall Prison, because that's where Victor was. Mason was coming for him. This time, Victor wouldn't be strolling out of prison like before. As soon as Mason entered, he was escorted to the warden's office. The warden wasted no time, making it clear Mason's old status held no weight inside. In Stonewall, he was just another convict, worse, a former cop, despised by all. "I can't stand police," the warden said coldly. Backed by inmates, the warden implied Mason's transfer wasn't random, it was arranged. He extended a tempting offer, inviting Mason to join his side. "Just so you know, I can be an ally," he said. As a token of goodwill, Mason was given a light-duty post in the laundry. But Mason remained quiet, showing no interest. Meanwhile, Victor quickly got wind of Mason's presence. In the mess hall, he confronted him, looming threateningly. "How's that first lunch treating you?" When told about Griffin's death, Victor barely reacted. "Still got the better end. 2 for 1, he sneered. He mocked Mason, warning him his badge held no power behind bars. "That badge won't save you, it'll earn you a slit neck." The next day, while Mason worked in laundry, a group of inmates ambushed him. Though a skilled fighter, he was overwhelmed and beaten savagely. Just before they could finish him, a guard intervened, rescuing Mason. He awoke in the infirmary, bruised and broken. Joel sat beside him, face full of worry. "She's gone," Mason whispered. Days later, out in the yard, Mason spotted someone familiar, Ben Wilson, an ex-military comrade working security at Stonewall. During their chat, Ben disclosed something chilling. Despite just a year in prison, Victor had established a vast underground network. He ran contraband operations and had strong ties outside. Inside, Drexel handled logistics, while Booker managed external agents. Ben hinted Victor was just a pawn, controlled by someone higher up. "He's the fangs and the brawn, but not the brain," Ben warned. "Don't forget that." Mason instantly suspected the puppet master was the warden. Gazing at a photo of Jocelyn, he vowed to make them pay, even at the cost of his life. The following day, Mason relayed Ben's intel to Joel and asked him to investigate. "How many inmates walk out of Stonewall without explanation?" Joel nodded. "Very few, unless someone like Spider helped." Unbeknownst to Mason, their talk was being monitored. The warden soon caught wind of Joel's probing. "Why must everyone let me down?" he muttered bitterly. That night, haunted by the earlier assault, Mason prepared for retribution. He took a pen hidden beneath his bed and turned it into a makeshift blade. When the facility dimmed, he slipped into the restroom and confronted one of his attackers. The struggle was brutal. Though injured, Mason managed to overpower the inmate, who bled out before finishing him. Wasting no time, he struck another inmate cleaning nearby. Mason sprang into action, overpowering him, snapping his neck using the mop handle. When Victor heard that his men were falling, he snapped. He ordered Drexel to send their top enforcers to ambush Mason. Make this one personal. But Mason, fueled by fury, was unstoppable. Just as he closed in on another foe, a guard struck him and dragged him to the warden. Instead of punishment, the warden proposed a deal: become his enforcer, eliminate his enemies, and everything would be overlooked. The bloodshed didn't bother him, as long as it served his ends. Mason, once a cop, refused to play along. "We can work something out," the warden offered. "It's win-win." Knowing his resistance provoked the warden, Mason lashed out. "You already have your deal with Victor Abbott." Meanwhile, one of Mason's victims survived and warned Drexel. Mason's no pushover. Released back into the general population, Mason quietly returned to laundry. In a moment of secrecy, he tore off a piece of heating pipe and hid it. That night, he sharpened it into a lethal knuckle ring. His revenge continued. Mason deceived his cellmate, RB, into entering the cell. As soon as RB stepped inside, Mason pounced, delivering crushing blows to his throat until he dropped. Victor's crew fell one by one. When Victor realized what was happening, he exploded. He stormed into the warden's office, demanding action. "Patience, really, you think we have time?" But the warden, unmoved, wanted Victor to operate outside, not cause turmoil inside. "You're useless to me in here." Then he revealed a bombshell. He was the one who orchestrated Mason's arrival. Outraged, Victor realized he was being used. To pacify him and remove a threat, the warden gave him a name, Joel. A guard lured Joel to the prison, lying that Mason was dead. But it was a trap. Victor's crew assaulted and brutalized Joel until he stopped moving, while Mason was forced to witness it. The warden was pleased. Joel, a liability, was eliminated. Victor and Mason were neutralized. But Victor's clout declined as whispers spread. The warden might now back Mason. "He's making moves," the inmates murmured. This infuriated Victor. Shattered by Joel's death, Mason knew he couldn't finish this alone. He had one option: strike a pact with the warden. Hesitantly, he approached him. The warden agreed, but with strings attached. Mason would help preserve order and silence opposition. Mason asked why he was chosen. "A cop's training," the warden said, "and the resolve of a killer." The warden dodged a real explanation but hinted clearly Victor had outlived his usefulness. Mason agreed, but only on his terms. That night, guards tricked Booker into meeting the warden. Mason ambushed him, injected a tranquilizer, then slit his wrist as his vision dimmed. The next day, Victor learned of Booker's demise and confronted the warden. Their alliance was crumbling. Before violence erupted, the warden's men arrived, forcing Victor to retreat. Meanwhile, Mason headed to the cafeteria. Victor, seething, finally snapped. He pulled a knife and went after Mason, but Mason sensed it coming. He struck a nearby guard, causing confusion. It gave him just enough time to dodge, but he was quickly overwhelmed and sent to solitary. Inside the isolation cell, Ben visited and told him some inmates were secretly rooting for him. Curious, Mason asked where Ben stood. "You backing me?" Mason asked. Ben simply answered, "I never bet early. That's why I survive." Knowing what lay ahead, Ben discreetly handed Mason a blade. Just before Mason's release, the warden reiterated their deal, but was stunned when Mason claimed no such agreement existed. Mason understood. Victor killed his wife, but it was the warden who unleashed him. "Victor took my wife," Mason said, "but we both know who gave him the key." The warden stormed off. With Mason defiant, he turned back to Victor, seeking to restore control. Meanwhile, he warned Mason, a transfer order had been filed. "Your game's almost up." Mason knew his time was short. If he wanted revenge, it had to be now. From his cellmate, he learned Drexel was on the roof. Mason found him, and the two engaged in a savage fight. Just as Mason gained the upper hand, two heavy men attacked. Outnumbered, Mason still turned the tide. He used a rope to subdue Drexel and tossed him off the roof. In the chaos, Warden's man Wills also fell to his death. Wills' death triggered a massive riot. Prisoners grabbed weapons, gunfire roared, and the prison fell into bedlam. Ben, from above, watched with a gun in hand. Victor opened fire at Mason, but missed, hitting inmates instead. As Mason closed in, they finally clashed in a brutal hand-to-hand duel. Seeing it all unravel, the warden stepped in. He couldn't let Mason seize control, but couldn't justify killing a former officer. Desperate, he handed Victor a gun. "Don't blow this, do it with flair." But Mason looked Victor dead in the eyes and dropped a bombshell. "I helped create your warden." Victor snapped. He launched a furious kick, then resumed the fight. Victor's raw strength overwhelmed Mason. Just as defeat loomed, Victor made a fatal mistake. He taunted. Mason struck back with his hidden blade, killing Victor instantly. As the warden panicked and reached for a weapon, Ben stepped in, gun drawn. "Hey, warden," Ben said. He'd made his choice. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel for more beautiful recaps like this. Put down your comments below to let me know what you think about the turn of events in this storyline. And also give my video a thumbs up to further motivate me. Share too for others to enjoy. Until my next recap, cheers!